What's another one? Okay, ooh. Hey, this is gonna be a bit of an informal debate video because I wanna talk about just arguments in general. And then, so I might make this into a longer video series where every video talks about common arguments that one can find in a debate or that one could use in a debate round. I'm going to be sharing with you two very useful arguments that find themselves in a lot of debate motions, and then talk about which type of motions they might be applicable to and how you build out these arguments. So let's get to the first argument. The first argument, you've definitely done this argument before, is the argument of free choice. Or you could call this argument agency, you call it autonomy, or freedom of speech, or freedom of choice. This argument goes by a lot of different names, but they all have the same crux argumentation in the middle, and then maybe the impacts would be different. Free choice is basically the argument that we need to give people the agency to decide for themselves, to decide who they want as their ruler, to decide whether they eat something unhealthy or not, just to give them the choice to do what they want, right? And this falls in a lot of motions, especially motions that are policy motions, where one team is trying to enact a policy that might be restrictive of some people. The way that this argument runs, the way that you can make this argument powerful is to explain why choice is beneficial. And there's two reasons why choice is beneficial. One, because allowing individual actors to be able to make their own choices makes the best decisions possible. But the second thing is that choice and having your own agency feels good. So these are two sort of underlying reasons why choice is good for people. So let's go with the first one, the fact that people know themselves the best. They can hear their own thoughts and nobody else can hear their thoughts. They can understand what they value more than other things, and therefore their choice will follow, one, their beliefs, but two, their values, the things that they enjoy. And therefore they're able to make the choice with the most amount of information about themselves. Whereas other people forcing choice upon them cannot really understand what these people want because they cannot read their minds. So therefore, choice creates the best outcomes because we cannot read people's minds. For example, look at the thought experiment of the idea of giving 100 people puppies, right? In a sense, it might feel good to give 100 people 100 puppies. But what we don't know about that scenario is that 2 of those people are allergic to puppies. And so therefore, even though we can make an educated guess that majority of people like puppies, if we force everyone to have puppies, the 2 people with dog allergies really suffer. And so this is sort of where free choice comes in and why free choice is good. But very often, if you're gonna argue for free choice being a benefit to people, you can just state the fact that everybody knows their own preferences and their own values the most. We cannot read what they want. Therefore, giving people the agency, giving people the choice to make the decision for themselves will maximize the amount of value for every person. The second argument why free choice is good is because it feels good to the person making the choice. For some reason, human nature loves agency and loves the ability to make decisions for ourselves. And in order to make this part of the argument strong, you can very often link it to purpose. Very often, human beings find purpose in being able to make decisions for themselves and being responsible for themselves, because responsibility is highly linked to one's purpose, because they are now useful for taking care of themselves. And so therefore, if you take away their choice, you take away their ability to give themselves purpose, and purpose which makes us feel good. So these are the 2 reasons why free choice, why agency is good. 1, because it maximizes the amount of benefits per person, because we understand what we value, and then 2, because it feels good to be able to make your own decisions because it allows you to have more purpose. So once you're able to create this, now you can put even more impacts underneath, depending on whatever the motion is. So for example, if you give students the free choice to be able to take whatever subject they want at school, it maximizes the value that they gain because they learn the things that they're going to be actually using in their occupations in the future, and it makes them feel more purposeful, it makes them feel better about school because of the fact that they can choose to go where they want. So yeah, that would be an example of a free choice argument that you would give for a motion about allowing kids to choose their own subjects. By the way, free choice as an argument almost always fits in to policy motions where you are restricting people's ability to make their own decisions. So this has to do with banning smoking, this has to do with banning zoos, this has to do with banning almost anything. Next, arguments. So this is another big pool of arguments. I call this the role of blank argument. And you can fill that blank with any large actor that has a role that they're supposed to fulfill. So it could be the role of government, or the role of education, or the role of... Or it could be the role of certain movement, like, I don't know, the feminist movement, or the role of the Black Lives Matter movement. Whatever the larger organization or whatever the larger stakeholder is, you could say the role of something. Basically, this is an argument that is arguing that this certain stakeholder has this specific purpose that they are supposed to fulfill. So in a way, it's a bit of a principle argument in arguing what ethical principle responsibility this actor has to achieve. So what is the unique role of this actor slash stakeholder within society that they are supposed to fulfill? Most of the time, you're talking about stakeholders that have a certain level of power. If we've seen Spider-Man, we all believe that
with great power comes great responsibility.
And thus, these stakeholders have this role that they're supposed to play. So for example, the argument of the role of education is that we believe that education has these specific things that they're supposed to fulfill. Maybe the role of education is to be able to prepare the future generation for the workforce, right? And so with that, you can state that it's justified for us to maybe force kids to learn more, or force kids to learn about history, because it's the role of the educational system to give them the tools that they need to succeed in the future. Or the argument on the role of the government. If you believe the role of the government is to keep the people safe, then therefore there is an ethical reason why the government should be allowed to get rid of certain rights. Right? If the role of the government is to keep us safe, they are justified in banning drugs, or they're justified in forcing you to do certain safety measures, or they're justified in searching you at the airport so that there are no dangerous materials in the airplane. Depending on what you believe the role of the government to be, it is an argument for that unique purpose that that actor has. Right? By the way, the role of the government can be interpreted in multiple ways, right? You can interpret the role of the government to keep their people safe and happy, or you could interpret the role of the government to be able to give the most liberty to the most amount of people, right? And those two interpretations, safety or liberty, lead to totally different arguments. But basically, the framing of this argument, the role of blank, usually just has to do with like, look, this actor is supposed to do this, and this is why principally we are on the right side of the motion. So yeah, those are two really big bubbles of arguments. The free choice, agency, autonomy arguments, and the role of government, the role of the police force, the role of feminism. These are two really large arguments that find their way in a lot of debate topics and a lot of debate rounds. So the next time you think about these two arguments, understand the purpose of these arguments, the strengths of these arguments, and how to argue for them, and then you're gonna be able to use them in your next debate. Hopefully I can do more videos like this in the future. I think I have like a couple dozen more arguments that I could go over that just like fit into debate rounds. And learning arguments outside of motions is very useful because you can just like plop them in to whatever debate round you're doing, especially if they fit very well. All right. So that's all for today. I'll see you guys next time. Okay. Yay.